16th century Cebu, then known as Zubu or Sugbo, was an island inhabited by Hindus, Buddhists, and animists, ruled by Raja Datus. The Rahanate of Cebu was a native kingdom which used to exist in Cebu prior to the arrival of the Spaniards. It was founded by Sri Lumay, otherwise known as Raja Muda Lumaya, a half Malay and half Tamil prince of the Chola dynasty, which had invaded Sumatra in Indonesia. He was sent by the Maharaja to establish a base of expeditionary forces to subdue the local kingdoms, but he rebelled and established his own independent Rahanate instead. The arrival of Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan in 1521 established a period of Spanish exploration and colonization. Losing favor for his plan of reaching the Spice Islands from King Manuel I of Portugal by sailing west from Europe, Magellan offered his services to King Charles I of Spain. On September 20, 1519, Magellan led 5 ships with a crew of 250 people from the Spanish port of Sanlúcar de Barrameda en route to the Southeast Asia via the Americas and Pacific Ocean. They reached the Philippines on March 16, 1521. Raja Colombo, the king of Mazawa, told them to sail for Cebu, where they could trade and have provisions. Arriving in Cebu City, Magellan with Enrique of Malacca as translator, befriended Raja Humabon, the Raja or king of Cebu, and persuaded the natives of allegiance to Charles I of Spain. Humabon and his wife were given Christian names and baptized as Carlos and Juana. The Santo Niño was presented to the native queen of Cebu as a symbol of peace and friendship between the Spaniards and the Cebuanos. On April 14, Magellan erected a large wooden cross on the shores of Cebu. Afterwards, about 700 islanders were baptized. Magellan soon heard of Datu Lapu-Lapu, a native king in nearby Mactan Island, a rival of the Rajas of Cebu. It was thought that Humabon and Lapu-Lapu had been fighting for control of the flourishing trade in the area. On April 27, the Battle of Mactan occurred where the Spaniards were defeated and Magellan killed by the natives of Mactan, in Mactan Island. According to Italian history and chronicler Antonio Pigafetta, Magellan's body was never recovered despite efforts to trade for it with spice and jewels. In 1898, the island was ceded to the United States after the Spanish-American War and Philippine-American War. In 1901, Cebu was governed by the United States for a brief period. However, it became a charter province on February 24, 1937, and was governed independently by Filipino politicians. Ethnically, the people of Bohol were among the most recent to settle in the Philippine archipelago. Excavations at Tagbilaran City and throughout the region have revealed evidence of a distinct prehistoric civilization, and this group of people were characterized by the heavy use of tattoos for both cosmetic and ritualistic purposes. The first historical mention of Bohol is hinged to the blood compact made between the local chieftain Dato Sigatuna and conquistador Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. This took place in the latter half of the 16th century when Spain was establishing its 3-century grip on the Philippine Islands. This blood compact, locally called Sandugo, turned out to be an important treaty between these two nations and is still celebrated by locals. During the early years of Spanish occupation, there were 2 different revolts that grew out of Bohol. The Chamblot uprising was led by a local priest during the early 17th century. Later, a famous rebellion was instigated by local hero Francisco de Godoy, which lasted for the greater portion of his life. To this day, skeletons of some of his followers remain hidden in local caves where they avoided their Spanish adversaries. This revolt is an important event in the rebellious psyche of Bohol's citizens.
Negros Oriental. Spanish explorers landed in Negros Oriental in 1565. They found natives who called the place Buglas, named after a kind of tall grass resembling the present-day sugarcane plant. The Spaniards reported seeing many dark-skinned inhabitants, and so they renamed the island Negros. 1571, Legazpi assigned encomiendas on Negros Island to 13 of his men. Three of the encomiendas were the Rios de Tane, Davi, and Monalongon in the southern part of Oriental Negros. Augustinian friars began Christianization of the island. For almost 400 years of the island of Negros was administered as one of the province by Spaniards. There was a pressing need for more officials to supervise closely government functions such as strengthening defenses against devastating Moro raids, apprehending and trying criminals, and opening of more. A petition to separate Oriental Negros from Negros Occidental was presented to the Governor-General, recommending the town of Dumaguete as capital. On January 1, 1890, Governor General Valeriano Weller, in compliance with the royal decree dated October 25, 1888, established Negros Oriental as a separate province.
Along the coastline dwelt the natives of Malayan heritage who were engaged in little agricultural activities. Asian merchants who came as early as the 13th century indicates a flourishing trade and commerce with the neighboring countries such as China, India, and Malayan Peninsula. Siquijor. Siquijor is known to many as the mystical island of the Philippines. The island's native name used to be Katagusan, from Tugas, the mulave trees that cover the hills. Because of the mulave trees and the fireplace in them, the island was early poetically known to the Spaniards as Isla del Fuego, the island of fire. When the Spaniards discovered the island, they were allegedly greeted by this King Quixote, who presented himself with this word Si Quixote, I am Quixote. The Spaniards mistakenly thinking that he was talking about the island adopted the name Siquijor, which later changed to Siquijor. As it was easy to pronounce, a more down-to-earth explanation of the name is that it comes from the native term Quixote, which means the tide is going out.
Siquijor is known to many as the mystical island of the Philippines. The island's native name used to be Katagusan, from Tagusan, the molive trees that cover the hills. Because of the molive trees and the fireflies in them, the island was earlier poetically known to the Spaniards as Isla del Fuego, the island of fire. Siquijor, the island's present name. When the Spaniards discovered the island, they were allegedly greeted by this King Quixote, who presented himself with this word, Si Quixote. The Spaniards, mistakenly thinking that he was talking about the island, adopted the name Si Quixote, which later changed to Siquijor. Explanation of name comes from the native.